documentary, Beyond the Game, and
Beyond the Game.
It's so epic, like when Grubby is like trying to find an apartment to live in China. And, like, he's only going to be there for, like, a few months or something. But he's, like, looking for an apartment. And all he cares about is the internet connection, obviously. But anyways, guys, the loading screen is up. That means we got to go into game. It's game 1 of the grand finals. Like Robin said, the winner goes to China. And here we go. So we've already got Hendrilisk representing Canada to go to China, play WCG, and we're about to find out here in this series who will accompany him, who will be one of 2 remaining players to be chosen. Of course, there is the event coming up in Montreal next weekend. If you are available, make sure to go to WCGCanada.net to sign up. And Robin, this is our first contestant here spawning in the bottom left. He is...
Fire Zerg.
And he has shown us some fantastic games here tonight. He had a little bit of difficulty versus his teammate CG's Imagine. It went all the way to that 5th game. 3-2 final score. Fire Zerg just edging out his opponent, who seemed to just run out of multitasking fuel in the last 2 games after taking an early lead in the series. But spawning in the top right, we've got our pink Protoss player. It is Optic Zero. He is, of course, part of Team FXO, though he has been inactive for quite a few months, trying to make maybe a bit of a comeback here and get back on the main scene. Give a cheer if you want Optic Zero to win. In the chat, just spam it out, guys. Let's get those.
The audience goes crazy.
Woo, yeah.
I want to be at a live event on a main stage, man.
That would be so fun.
The only time I've like had a close to like real crowd was when I did Stefano Whitera at MLG Orlando, and they put it on the main screen. That's it, man. I want to be in front of a crowd.
That's
someday.
like the best series in the world to cast, though.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I didn't know I was casting it for like a live, like audience though, until after they all cheered after Game 3, and I was like, wait a minute. I was actually on that huge like projector thing, and they're like, yeah. I was like, oh my god, I like died. I fell on my seat.
Good thing they told you afterwards, though.
I know, right? I wouldn't have been able to do it if they would have told me earlier. But, anywho, Fire Zerg immediately seeing his overword straight to the natural, and man, we haven't seen some PvZ in a week now. Again, just everything's been opening up as normal for most Protoss and Zerg players. We won't be seeing too much action usually until 7-8 minute mark, where things start to get a little heated up.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, man.
And in that intervening time, a couple people saying the stream is laggy. I am streaming on 720p, guys, and I'm keeping an eye on everything. So far, I've actually been pretty good with Twitch. Only 8 frames have been dropped out of 360,000 frames so far this cast. So if there is any lag issues, then I'm unfortunately sad to say that it's maybe Twitch to you or something like that. Maybe try lowering the settings to be able to get that streaming nice and smooth. We got a bit of a pause here from Fire Zerg. I don't think it's lag. He is trying to get across the map, though, with those Zerglings, but the first Photon Cannon for Optic Zero is just about to finish, as we can see on that production tab, and I don't expect these Zerglings here to be able to do too much.
Yeah, they'll poke and prod a little bit, but the placement for the buildings here are actually really nice for Optic Zerg. It forces the Zerglings to either A, commit fully, which means A, they could take a lot of damage from the photon cannons because they have to run all the way around and potentially could be blocked, or B, not do anything, which is most likely the option that he would go for. So, again, we'll just wait for that to happen, and it looks like he's good to go. It may have just been on a setting or something.
Yeah.
No lag, so
just like mouse sensitivity that he just wanted to switch just a tiny bit, something like that. And he's going to get to his opponent's base. Now, Fire Zerg won't be shy to actually try to run those Zerglings past. He will, of course, wait for all 4 of them to show up and then maybe try to sneak through. But we see the probe there is waiting for Optic Zero. He does get the Cybernetics core up, and in the end, Fire Zerg will pull back. He has his 3rd base here on the way. And like you said, Robin, we're probably not going to see too much happening here in the next 7 or 8 minutes. In fact, you know, I've been refining my builds. I was talking about that earlier, going to Dallas. Shout out to Clarity Gaming, sending me down there. And, yo, man, I got to sneak that in. Boom. Getting it done. Yeah. But I mean, when you're going 3-base, it's all about the most maximum efficiency going down with your Overlord timings and your inject timings. Like inject versus creep tumor, I guess I should say, and drone versus Overlord. And that's all you're doing. You're just like focused on that, making sure every single larva gets spent exactly where it needs to. And meanwhile, Optic Zero, he's going to try to mess that up just a tiny bit here. He's sending 2 Zealots out across the map, forcing out some extra Zerglings, and something like that, honestly, just throws all the balance off. All of a sudden, you don't have the same amount of drones you thought you had at that supply. It's odd. When you have those builds perfected, Robin, you'd be surprised what 2 Zealots and 4 or now 6 extra Zerglings can do to you.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, dude. It throws you off so much. This way, a little bit. Again, that suddenly means that you don't have 65 drones heading at the point where you could need to hold off an all-in or something. But anywho, some nice micro here for Firezerk. He does take off 1 Zealot. He does lose 3 Lings in the process, but certainly worth it, man. Reducing the amount of DPS from those Zealots quite handily there. And still going to micro a little bit, get that Queen involved here, trying to focus down the weaker Zealot, and Optic Zero won't be doing too much here, man. He's even joining up behind this, starting that Roach Warren that you normally want to have up by the 7-minute mark, but having Zergs play a little bit more greedy and getting it around 7:30, maybe in 7:45, but Firezerk are going to play a little bit on the passive side and make sure he just has that available to him. So 3 more Zealots, so making their way once again in the third.
Yeah, he's being as annoying as possible, and you know what? There's a lot of merit to being annoying in this game. Oftentimes, the winner is going to be he who is the most annoying. That is the person who's doing the most harassment, getting those run-bys to work. And so far, this Queen here doing a good job keeping the hatchery between herself and those Zealots, and going to be able to buy enough time for these extra Zerglings here to pop out. Meanwhile, still lots of drones popping out for Firezerk. We see he's up to 40 drones, but we also see Optic Zero at 40 probes. He is kept right up with his opponent in terms of harvesters, and that was all due to those Zealots. Now, of course, conversely, there's not a single army unit right now out for Optic Zero. So going for any kind of attack or warp gate pressure, he won't have any sentries set up to do something like that. And in fact, we see a very quick robotics bay here, Robin, and that is very indicative here of a 2-base all-in, I should say.
Yeah, certainly. It allows him to get 3, potentially even 4 Colossi out when his Thermal Lance finishes up if he chrono boosts it. But he's been chrono boosting out his +1 attack, so it really leads me to believe that he wants to head for a +2 attack. Potentially even get armor out, actually, if he's very, very proactive in terms of chrono boosting that out. But now falling up into a few more gateways. Oh, actually, 1 more gateway, and now grabbing a Twilight Council here. Very interesting. Wants to potentially have charge available with his Colossi, which would really help out with that Thermal Lance.
It basically can't be a 2-base all-in anymore. The Colossus alone costs a lot of resources to get out, and it's really tough even to just go for a Colossus all-in without getting overrun by Zerglings and Roaches. You need to have beautiful force fields going down to make sure to keep your Colossus alive. Making a Twilight Council that cuts into that sentry count really hurts you, but at the same time, trying to go for an expand play with Colossus really delays that 3rd base. And we see now Firezerk, he's up to 74 drones. He's got 3 fully saturated bases with the gases going and everything. So delaying that 3rd base a bit is going to hurt Optic Zero as well. So yeah. I really don't know about this, Robin.
He's also using his energy accidentally at his natural. He meant to hit hold position, and he actually hit G, which started his Guardian shield there. So that's a little bit on the hurtful side, wasting all the energy. But again, you're right, man. I mean, as you mentioned, the drone count, 74 harvesters. Normally for a 2-base all-in or anything that's really, really strong, that usually hits around 8 minutes to 9:30, you're wanting to have about 65 drones. It allows you to really hold anything with just constantly spamming out Roaches, Lings, and of course wasting force fields. I mean, there's a lot of in between there, but again, generally you want to be around 65 harvesters, and he's at 75 or 74. And he's now turning out units. He's going to have Spire Tech available as well, plus upgrades. I mean, Firezerk should be able to hold this push, I guess if you want to call it, Zealots and a few Sentries and 1 Colossi pretty easily, I feel like, if he just keeps constantly getting units out now. And with a Ling scouting that Colossi, he knows, man. He's got Corruptors coming too.
Yeah, he's got 6 Corruptors on the way. Those will be able to deal with the Colossus easily enough. There's no anti-air for Optic Zero. He's got 3 Sentries. That is it. really nice. Also, we see here, it's not corruption. What is that ability? It is contaminate, of course, going down and actually stopping the third Colossus from popping out. So it's just going to be 2 Colossus here for Optic Zero when he really wanted to have 3. Here come the roaches. A couple force fields do go down. There's only 1 force field left now on the sentries. So that was a beautiful bait. Only ended up losing 2 roaches there. And, I mean, Firezerg's in a great position. He's making tons of roaches, making those corruptors. He's got 7 corruptors out with 2 more popping. 9 corruptors are going to just destroy those Colossus. And there's no force fields, Robin. There's like 2 force fields here. Make that 3. And that's it. This is going to be tough.
The thing
here.
is, Optic Zero is delaying this longer because he wants to have +2 on his side, but that's just giving more time for Firezerg. The timings aren't really matching up for Optic Zero like they normally should in a PvZ. I mean, I guess he'll have 1 or 2 force fields available, and if he gets a decent engagement and gets those zealots, of course, on top of those roaches, he might be able to hold this. But then again, I look at the army, and it's pretty painful here. So here comes the engagement, forces some force fields, 3 force fields for 1 roach. I would love that trade, but he takes out the Colossi immediately here with the Corruptors, and they're still chasing the Colossi away. And if both of them are killed off, these roaches are going to wreak havoc. And there they go, man, destroying all the Stalkers, sentries in front as well. Trying to micro his best here, but 163 to 85 supply and still chasing the units away, especially with Contaminate on them. These roaches are destroying the Stalkers.
And the third Colossus wanders in through the middle. He's got no protection. The roaches just take it out super easily. Optic Zero here in a lot of trouble, and I mean, it just comes down to this play. Like you said, you can't go for a 2-base all-in at the 11.5, 12-minute mark. It just gives way too much time for the Zerg player. We saw, obviously, Firezerg able to get that tech out, able to get the Corruptors along with the Roaches, and now we can even see Firezerg just go for the counterattack. There's 1 sentry left for Optic Zero, so just staying defensive is going to be tough for him without those force fields.
Well, he's going to go ahead and sit at home at his natural, and he's actually moving down to that 3rd. Oh, he was for a second here. With that pylon actually in front, it makes me feel like he wants to expand down there. And there's an Overlord blocking that creep being there. That's a good, I believe, what is it, 80 seconds, I believe, for that creep to disappear? So that's a minute and 20 seconds, literally, that he can't expand just because of that creep. Firezerg is really on the top of his game right here. 4th hatchery on the way as well. Wouldn't mind seeing a 5th in the top left at the same time. He's going to be able to move towards Hive Tech as well, because he has the infestation pit done. But he's just going to move his roaches down to this 3rd to make sure it doesn't go up.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's now moving towards that 3rd since he doesn't have vision, just assuming his opponent's going to try to get that going. Again, only 1 sentry right now for Optic Zero, so no force fields to help. Not even a Nexus to help right now. These roaches, they can just charge right in, Robin, and it looks like that's what they're going to do. They're getting up close and personal. The cannons are going up, but they won't be here in time. The sentry here putting up a Guardian Shield, but the sentry will fall. Roaches coming from the back as well. There's the GG, and Firezerg in a pretty dominant fashion is going to take game 1.
Yeah, man, and dominant fashion is the correct word there. Game number 2, we'll have to see if Optic Zero can, I guess, move his tech tree a little bit faster and not go for such a weird all-in. Like you mentioned, when you grab that Twilight Council, it makes that all-in so much harder to pull off because you're putting so much gas into so much tech that you literally can't create units.
Exactly.
Literally. Like, you just have Zealots, and that's it. And what, he had 2 sentries? Like,
yeah, he ended up having 5 when he attacked. He had 5 sentries and 5 force fields total, since a couple of them were baited out a little earlier on. But it just, like, you can't even say Optic Zero played poorly. He chose the wrong build. He thought, I don't know why he thought something like that would work, but against a top Zerg like Firezerg, you can't have a 2-base all-in hit at that timing. It's just never going to work. He's going to have such a strong economy by then that even if he killed all those roaches and corruptors somehow and was able, you know, to keep pushing a bit with, let's say, stalkers and sentries, Firezerg is still going to have just a non-stop stream of units coming out across the map. Looks like we're already getting started here, guys. There's no time to waste. I've got to run a quick commercial here for our beautiful sponsor, Samsung. We're going to be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. We got game 2 starting up right now. It's PvZ. You won't miss anything. Don't worry about it.
Thanks. No problem.
What did you guys just do right there?
Just gave him a video.
Okay, let's get started.
You did that without a dongle.
It's pretty cool, huh?
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm texting and watching a video at the same time.
It's a boy. Check it out.
3. Oh, that's cool. That is cool.
That's cool.
Wow. This is a lot to process. Yeah.
Introducing the Galaxy S3. Share like never before. I am not just a television. I am a Samsung Smart TV. I am your cheer on Canada and follow Twitter on screen machine. The only question is, where will your passions take us?
All right, guys, welcome back. As promised, you haven't missed a single thing. Spawning in the bottom right, it's our pink Protoss. He's down a game right now in this best of 5. It is Optic Zero. And spawning to the top left, playing the orange Zerg pieces here. He's 2 games away from victory. From Cyber Gaming, Fire Zerg.
Fire Zerg this time, responding appropriately to just the map choice, opening with a pool right away at 15, so pretty normal for Ohana. 2 base all-ins, very strong on this map, as everyone and their mama knows. Everyone also knows that Ohana means family, so all that stuff out of the way. The question is, what kind of 2 base all-in do you think we could have from good old Optic Zero? I mean, the numbers don't lie. We've been reading about Sartell Party and whatnot, and that Sentry Immortal all-in, it's pretty darn deadly on this map.
That's actually why I've developed some 2-base play, and Hendrilus, actually, one of the reasons I love him so much is because he's got a lot of 2-base builds in his repertoire as well. And really, it comes down to the Sentry Immortal build. It is so cost-efficient against Zealot Roach, and it moves out at the 9.5-minute mark, which is before you can realistically start getting Infestors or Hydralisks if you go for 3-base play. And it comes down to the Protoss player. If the Protoss player gets perfect force fields down, then it makes it just about impossible for the Zerg player to actually win. You can think, was it Jaedong versus Seed? Oh, I can't remember who Jaedong played in the GSL, but the force fields were always perfect. Jaedong trying to get some flanks off, but the force fields always working and just ripping through that army, and it's just super, super effective if you have those force fields. So Ohana, one of the maps where that build is the most popular, mostly because you can move up into your opponent's 4th base location and then move down this narrow ramp, stay close to the wall, and get up to that 3rd base. And the entire time, you're pretty safe. There's only, like, between the ramp and the 3rd base is when the Zerg has to attack you, and even then, when you have 10, 12 sentries, you have enough sentries to make a full force field wall, no matter how much open area there is.
Katu laying down the law, guys, and Fire Zerg doing the normal Zerg play here, getting the natural and the 3rd. Went for 1 queen, and now following up to the 2nd one. This is just pretty darn standard, man. You get that 3rd established, you get it good to go, you get that creep spread going, and it's kind of, I guess, the pre-active play to trying to really take away the Sentry Immortal all and get that creep movement across the middle of the map. But again, like you said, dude, it's so strong. Force fields, just really, really nice to use around that 8-minute to 9-minute mark, because Zerg won't be able to have that many units out. The whole entire premise behind only at the all-in, though, remember, is you got to slow down the pylons being created. You got to try and be a little bit aggressive with the small amount of units you have. Not overly aggressive where you lose them, but just to the point where you kind of slow down Optic Zero if he goes for that route. Now, looking into the main and the natural, we can start to get the feel to see what exactly Optic Zero is going for. Hasn't started +1 yet, and that's because he doesn't have any gas quite yet, besides the 1 and his natural here, which is only mined a small amount. And look at this, actually. He has Zealots moving towards his opponent's 3rd, which, again, is kind of similar to game number 1.
Yeah, he's going for that same pressure, and as we noticed last game, he was able to basically keep up with his opponent economically by going for this Zealot pressure here. FireZerg having a bit of trouble dealing with it. This time, it looks like he might be in a bit of a better position, but he still needs to make those extra Zerglings, and again, it's 36 drones right now to 32 probes. With a bit of Chrono Boost, he can catch up, and oh, it looks like a Queen might even go down here. Some Zerglings do show up. The Queen needs to add that DPS if he wants these Zerglings to be enough, but it looks like they won't be, and even an extra Zealot here comes forward. This Queen here is going to go down almost for sure. She's trying to run away from the Zealots, but she's shortly going to run out of creep, and unfortunately, Queens off creep just don't really run as fast as they'd like to.
And it goes down immediately, and that's huge, actually, because he skipped getting that 2nd Queen, remember, just to get that 3rd base up a little bit. So that means Larva injects are thrown off a lot. This 3rd base, suddenly, the resources are going to start jumping up a lot for our Zerg player very, very soon. Well, not with all these drones actually trying to deal with these Zealots. He is done, man, and with some nice micro, actually. from Zero. He actually gets a couple of those drones. 3 do fall immediately, and he starts mining finally. But as you mentioned, 40 probes to 38. He has delayed a lot of progress for the Zerg player in terms of drones, as well as moving up into tech. Finally, we have the Roach Farm being started up, but he has an evolution chamber, and he actually hasn't started mining gas until now. Because he was so busy trying to deal with those zealots. That was a huge delay. A great play from Optic Zero, and he actually got it to work. I think he wanted to do that on Daybreak, just unfortunately the mad distance didn't work in his favor.
Well, it's just the follow-up I feel didn't work. I feel like his zealot pressure worked nicely. And the thing with Fire Zerg is that he did the same thing on Daybreak, same thing on this map. He makes a few Zerglings at first to deal with those zealots. And, oh, looks like we need a quick pause here for Fire Zerg. But to go back to what I was saying, he makes a few Zerglings at first, hoping that he can hold off that Zealot pressure just by microing his queen properly and taking down the Zealots, not letting them regenerate any shields. But he always makes just a few too few, and then he's forced to make a ton of Zerglings. Like, right now, if we look, he's got 16 Zerglings on the map. That's 8 drones there that he didn't make to make those Zerglings to defend against the Zergling, to develop defense against the Zealots. Wow, I'm jumbling my words, Robin. It's getting that time of day, I suppose. If he would have just made an extra couple of Zerglings at first to hold that off, he doesn't lose the queen, he doesn't have all these extra Zerglings, and all of a sudden he does have a better drone count. So, Fire Zerg, they're just trying to be too greedy, and in the end, it's hurting him a bit.
It's okay, man. You can slur your words. I do it all the time. No one listens to us. They just watch the game, man. They love StarCraft so much.
It's what they should
They
do,
can't even
because
hear
these
us.
games are good.
Yeah, man.
That's why
just
I'm
straight up
here.
watch. Exactly, dude. Real talk. All we gotta do is shut the unit tab and the production tab every once in a while, and we're good as casters.
It's true.
Anywho.
If you're not, you don't even have to listen to us. Just look at the production tab. You'll know what's happening.
Exactly, man. Well, immediately here we have the 4 gateways. Oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna have 5 gateways, and a Templar Archive being added on here for Optic Zero. Actually, maybe want to move into some Archon play, it looks like, as he's getting Blink, so he's gonna be really heavy on Stalkers, it looks like. So we'll see if that's the play he wants to go for, or potentially even some High Templar if he wants to wait a little bit longer and get that Psionic Storm out. But thing is, again, getting that Psionic Storm slows down his push a little bit.
Yeah, it does. I am once again perplexed. These tier 3 2-base all-ins, they usually hit quite a bit slower, and it's really to the detriment of the build. We see +2 here getting started, but quite late. The +2 should be about 3/4 of the way done at this point for your typical Blink all-in builds, but going for that Templar Archives did change things. Now, one thing that Optic Zero might be guarding against is the potential for Infestors. If his opponent went quick Infestors, that can shut down a Blink all-in really quickly, so maybe he wants some High Templars to feed back potential Infestors? Like, I'm working hard here to try to figure out how that's going to work out. It's also possible that he's expecting his opponent to make tons of Zerglings after he starts attacking, and then we'll morph in Archons. But hold that thought. Here comes the pressure. Stalker's starting to blink right now.
Alright, so here we go, and the Stalkers are moving forward. The Spine Crawlers are very close to finishing, though. And with some nice micro from Fire Zerg, he will be able to delay these Stalkers from doing too much damage. And now, it looks like one Spine Crawler did get sniped there. Now more Stalkers will be warped in, but now, since the third is so heavily defended, we can have our Proto player go towards the natural. But thing is, Spine Crawlers are already there. Roaches as well at the high ramp, but he's focusing on the Disruptive Breeze the whole time, and the Stalkers are pushing up the ramp. But Fire Zerg doing a good job of hugging up on those Stalkers, getting a lot of damage in, but there's just too many Stalkers here. Some nice micro from Optic Zero will force the Zergling or the Roaches to retreat there. But again, he's gonna go ahead and pull on back and try and poke at the third again. But there's a lot of Spine Crawlers here.
Yeah, that is a lot of Spine Crawlers, and here come the Zerglings and Roaches. +1 missile attacks and Galil Reconstitution are not done, so these are still slow Roaches with no upgrades. Uh-oh, a couple of the Stalkers are starting to die, and the key thing about this build is that you're never supposed to lose Stalkers. Keep them alive until you have such an overwhelming amount of Stalkers that your opponent can't do much. But we see here lots of Stalkers going down. He's down to just 11 of them, and with 11 Stalkers, you're in a lot of trouble. You need about 20 Stalkers. That's the key number in a Blink Stalker all-in, where the Stalkers that have blinked to the back at first, they will regain that blink cooldown by the time the rest of the Stalkers have blinked behind them. And now we see some more Stalkers warped in. Optic Zero trying to move in, but again, he's only got 14 Stalkers right now. Not enough quite yet.
I'm kind of wondering if Optic Zero... Oh, we have the engagement again. Zerglings moving forward. They do have speed finally, as well as the Roaches with that +1. They're chasing the Stalkers back with some nice micro. Optic Zero will force Fire Zerg to pull back. But I was kind of wondering, after he forced so many Spine Crawlers, and he forced so many units to pop out from Fire Zerg, in terms of Roaches and Lings, maybe pulling back and establishing a third would have been a good idea at that point. 5 to 6 Spine Crawlers is one drone taken away, a lot of minerals taken away as well. And they also had 2 more than natural. That's a lot of resources kind of taken away. And of course, with Fire Zerg not able to get any drones out because he's building so much defenses, I think it's been worth it for him to pull back and get a third compared to actually going all in without any zealots.
It's a really good point you bring up because it is a lot of resources that Fire Zerg invested into those spine crawlers. Conversely, though, Stalkers can keep poking. He just overcommitted on that pressure. And really, like, you can poke on those spine crawlers. The spine crawlers aren't going to heal up quickly. Let's take a look. 52 HP on one of them, the other 2 in the yellow there. So you can just keep poking at them. You pull back off of creep, let your stalkers regenerate some shields, let you warp in more stalkers until, again, you get to that critical 20-plus mass of stalkers, and you can just keep doing that poke. But 100%, he should have pulled back before he lost. I mean, he lost around, like, what, 12 stalkers there in that one engagement. And that from there on out, he just doesn't have the stalker count to really make this work anymore.
Well, he's going to go ahead and start poking once again here, and I like that because he's trying to get his third up. He just needs to be a little bit careful not to overextend on creep, because if you do, man, those roaches will creep up on you, and they will go ahead and hug up on you and kill you off, man. It's really hard to blink away from stalkers or from roaches that are actually on your stalkers, because you effectively blink just far enough away from them still being in attack range. So, especially with link support. But now infestors are out for Fire Zerg, so he's got to stop poking. Optic Zero does. He can't be popping in because one wrong poke and suddenly he's kind of caught and he just dies off from there. 4th on the way for Fire Zerg though. Checking into his harvesters, he's finally gained the lead here, 61 to 54. Would like to see a few more because he's not really fully saturated as main and natural. But again, doing all right in the count. And with him getting the infestors out, it's going to be a little bit easier for him to do engagements. Checking over into, of course, Optic Zero. He's at +2, and he's got +3 on the way, and he's getting immortals. So he's making the right strides towards a better late game composition. I would like to see more area effect, though. I don't see... Oh, there's some Templars. There they are. And he's got Storm, so that helps.
And a nice blink in here from the Stalkers. They're actually going to take out one of the Infestors. The other one does escape with just 12 HP. You see a Stalker blinking forward there. One more hit would have killed off that. 2 of those Infestors literally needed one more Stalker hit to go down. But in the end, Fire Zerg does keep them alive. Trades 5 Stalkers for 1 Infestor and 2 Fungals. So trading energy for Stalkers, always a good thing. Colossus starting to pop out. Colossus will be quite strong against the Infestors. Of course, the High Templar can be quite strong as well. They do have that Storm researched up, but feedback on those Infestors will take them right out. Of course, Infestors only 90 HP out, and of course can have a total of 200 energy. So more often than not, they'll just instantly die to a feedback.
Optic Zero needs to be careful at his third. He's got his units spread out nicely, but he's got a point where the Stalker's getting caught. Oh no, the Natural actually under siege at the moment. If he can get the High Temples up here and get a Storm off, there we go. A nice Storm deals with a lot of those Lings right away. And the Roaches do take some more damage. There we go, one more Storm as well. And the Stalker's coming up at a weird angle with the Immortals. The Colossi actually running away, needs to get in on this. There we go, finally engaging here. Dealing with the Infested Terrans. The Zealots are on the bottom left. I would like them to come flank from behind. Just kind of weird engagement from Optic Zero. Roach is now heading straight to the main once again, and looks like he might be able to poke off some production.
And a couple of Queens there won't be able to escape with the Infestors. But yeah, the Roaches going after some production. They're going to actually kill a couple of Stalkers first here. Going for that Templar Archives could definitely help him out as he transitions towards that Spire play that we see coming up. But looks like he's going to go for the Stalkers instead, have his army cleaned up. And of course, he is able to macro up immediately. We see still up at 180 supply. Sadly, a bit of lag there, and I'm not a referee, so I can't pause. There's the pause from Fire Zerg. We have been having, again, issues with the internet. Robin and I are, of course, at home, but these players are at the Atrium Court in Metropolis, Metrotown, in Burnaby, BC, in Vancouver, essentially, and the mall is having some issue with its internet. I'm actually not sure what kind of internet they've got set up, if they've gone satellite style on this or what, but definitely having some issues here. And in the finals, to decide who's going to China, whenever it acts up, we have been pausing, making sure that the lag and spikes do die down quite a bit.
Yeah, man. Well, anywho, speaking of just about the game itself, as you can see on the mini-map, in the bottom right in the main, Fire Zerg. Yeah, do so. Follow these players, man. I wish you would post it. That way I could tell. Oh, there it goes. Twitter.com/FireZerg StarCraft2. Nice. Nothing wrong with that. But there are roaches in the main, and there's Lings in the third, actually, killing a lot of probes, actually. There was only 1 Colossi, 2 Zealots, and a Photon Cannon to defend against that. And actually, Zealots fell, and the Photon Cannons fell. So, and the Colossi is not in position to deal with these Lings, so they might kill off all the probes at the third. There's also a group of units outside of that Natural, as you can see a little ball by the Zanaga. So, Fire Zerg's in a really prime position right now, 170 supply to 82. When the game does resume, I know there's some zealots on the roaches in the main, so those could potentially be cleaned up. But we also have a Spire on the way. I'm not sure if a Hive finished up. I can't see it, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, the Hive has not been started just yet, so that's actually something that's a little bit odd. But nonetheless, he will have the Spire, so Corruptors will be able to come into play to help deal with those Colossus, and we should see the Hive any moment. But yeah, I did not see any Hive tech go up.
Yeah, so
And
I
it's
guess he wants to
100
switch to
seconds,
Midas.
so it's possible, but against the High Templar, that would be an ill-advised choice. I feel it's more like he just missed the H key on his Hive, or perhaps his Hive was like researching Burrow or something when he hit the H key, so the Hive never started because it was already busy researching Burrow, and yeah, makes it a little bit tricky. Apparently, CR Box saying Hive is done.
Okay, cool. So that means he just wants to switch into, of course, late game, if it gets to that point. So he's got everything really falling for him. He's got the 4th base. It would be nice to have a 5th base by the 18-minute mark, but again, he's been really overly aggressive, and he whisked that back a little bit early game. But it looks like both players are ready to go. Now, can Optic Zero micro this correctly? Now, remember, there are Zerglings in the 3rd, and then, of course, the main might be in trouble as well. So when we pop it up, just make sure to get that overlay costume, and we'll be good to go.
So both players ready, and there they go. We've got the Zerglings here at the 3rd. Like Robin was saying, they kill off a ton of probes, and now they're actually trying to focus down that Nexus. The Nexus is falling. Roaches in the main have gone down as well. The Nexus is at about half HP, and oh, just barely the Zealots and Colossus. They're able to push back those Zerglings, but a lot more Roaches have been macroed up. There's a lot of Infestors as well. The army trying to make its way down to that 3rd base for Optic Zero, but I think that honestly, FireZerg can just push in, focus down the Nexus, and then pop out. He's got 4 bases up. He's got a 7th and 8th gases mining here, as we can see. And there it goes. The Nexus falls. Nice fungals on the ramp to keep the army of Optic Zero from engaging. And now FireZerg, if he wants, he can throw away these units. Like I believe it was CR Box said, the Hive was actually done. We missed it. And a Greater Spire now on the way. So he wants to actually waste a few of these units to be able to go into that Broodlord Corruptor Infestor combination of units.
Oh, look, he's going to lose another Nexus. At least he does get the cancel out, so that's nice. The Storm does land, but unfortunately the Roaches, with so much health, of course, they're going to be able to sustain a little bit of that damage. And he has Burrow, too, so he can actually even burrow them and get his health back. Pro's being caught in the transfer here, and unfortunately, Optic Zero is just kind of falling apart here. His High Templars are engaging the Infested Terran so they can try and get a feedback on the Festers. Unfortunately, they're going to be killed off right away, and Optic Zero pulls out the GG, and it looks like from here, FireZerg is going to be up 2-0.
Yeah, he had 10 Corruptors on the way with the Greater Spire close to finishing, so he was just in perfect position there to actually just go into Broodlords, even if his Roach aggression didn't finish off his opponent. Just FireZerg in the end, I think it was really those Zerglings that made that game for him, because the Roaches that went into the main did like no damage, except they were the perfect distraction. And then the Zerglings swooped in, killed off about 15, 16 probes, and started wounding that Nexus, which allowed FireZerg to then move in with the Roaches for a second try and easily take it down.
Dude, I really think Optic Zero had a great chance to defend and get himself in a really great advantageous position, because whenever we had FireZerg push up into the natural, all the units were clumped up. Colossi pops out. It wasn't attacking for a good 10-15 seconds. That's a lot of free damage. The High Templars didn't put Storms down either early enough. If he would have killed that ball of Roaches and Lings very, very quickly, he would have been feeling great, and none of that would have happened. Unfortunately, he just missed his timing. So with that being said, guys, we're going to run some commercials. We'll be right back into game number 3.
Thanks. No problem.
What did you guys just do right there?
Just gave him a video.
Okay, let's get started.
You did that without a dongle.
It's pretty cool, huh?
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm texting and watching a video at the same time.
It's a boy. Check it out.
3. Oh, that's cool. That is cool.
That's cool.
Wow. This is a lot to process. Yeah.
Introducing the Galaxy S3. Share like never before.
All All right, guys, welcome back. Remember, you can win one of those Series 7 laptop notebooks if you just go to WCGCanada.net and click on the link, enter the sweepstakes. It's absolutely free. And Silence and I, actually, last night we were talking a lot about what we'd do if we won one of those laptops. Because, man, it would be so awesome. We both entered. And with that being said, I hope you enter as well. Spawning in the top left, we've got our pink Zerg, or rather Protoss, and he is down right now 2-0. He needs to win these next 3 games in a row if he wants to be representing Canada in China. It is Optic Zero.
And of course, on the opposite side of the map, on Sugarcrest Plateau in the top right corner, it's going to be Fire Zerg, currently up in the series 2-0. Can he take it 3-0 and go to China? Getting a sweep in the finals would be a great feeling indeed. But of course, Optic Zero, you can't count him out yet, man. He's had a little bit of awkward builds, but I feel like if he's just a little bit ahead of the curve, a little bit more faster with his timings, he can hit quite nicely. He just seems to be off 30 to 40 seconds, which is really just kind of throwing him off a lot, actually.
Yeah, and it comes down to the fact that he keeps getting those tier 3 buildings for his all-ins. There's one solid Colossus all-in that can work. You end up moving out with like 5 sentries and a Colossus at the 9.5, 10 minute mark, depending on if you were able to get a Nexus first or if you were forced into a Forge first. And then you're able to get a pylon down and quickly add on a bunch of Zealots, 3 more sentries, and a second Colossus actually catches up. And that's the only Colossus all-in that I've seen effective against the 3-base style of Zerg that we've been seeing. So, I mean, we haven't seen Optic Zero do that. Then we saw him go for a Templar Archives before pushing out with his Blink Stalkers. So I don't know if it's indecision where Optic Zero is getting this tech, maybe planning to go for 3 bases, but then just decides, hey, let's go for a 2-base all-in, or what. But, I mean, it hasn't been working so far, and hopefully he's going to try something new here in Game 3.
Yeah, certainly. Just the tech choices seem a little bit weird, but Fire Zerg actually being very active with the links here. Is he actually going to scout the Zergling? Or no, actually, he's not going to see the probe. Zergling is actually going to retreat just because of the area it's looking at. Oh no, he actually stops the rally, so he could find this probe. I assume he saw it in some way, some manner. Third hatchery on the way. Gosh, I cannot talk. I'm going to let you take over, Katu, for a second while I drink some water.
The Zerglings here have just barely spotted the probe, and there you go, FireZerg did see it on the minimap. The probe continued to try to juke and jive and hide, but it will get found out, and it's only down to 5 HP, so it'll go down quite quickly. It might spot the third, it'll be close. No, doesn't spot the third, and that's painful, because now Optic Zero has the choice. No, he doesn't really have a choice. He either sends out a Zealot, and he has been going for Zealot pressure, so he might just do something like that once again, but it's a risk now. He doesn't know if his opponent went for a third base or not, and if he didn't, then these are basically just 2 dead Zealots moving out. Luckily though, FireZerg did go for a third base, and we're going to see the same style of aggression that we've seen in Game 1 and 2.
So here's why his upgrades have been so late. Look at him, he's Chrono boosting out these gateways, these Zealots immediately. He's been doing this the last couple of games, and he doesn't start his upgrades ever on his Forge until after he gets done with the aggression, and that's why his timings have been soft and so weird. But again, FireZerg being very proactive this time. Gonna go ahead and get a lot of lings on the field and just kill off these Zealots. And again, another Chrono boost, 2 Chrono boosts actually, in fact, used on these gateways. And it just slows down his timing so much. And now FireZerg chaining his build up a little bit, getting so many Zerglings out to deal with the Zealots. Immediately it changes everything here. Now I feel like Optic Zero, when we get into the 8-minute, 9-minute mark, is gonna be farther behind than he has been in the last couple of games when it comes to tech.
Yeah, that's what we were saying earlier about how FireZerg needs to make sure to have enough units to hold the pressure as it comes, not after it comes. And that's exactly what he did. And now he is just barely up in drones, but at the same time, Optic Zero, usually he sends 4 Zealots across the map. This time he will have sent 6. And like you said, he used a lot more Chrono boost, so he will be behind there. More Zerglings, of course, on the way. A lot more Zerglings. Whoa, FireZerg. He's going to have a total of like 32 Zerglings here out on the field. And uh-oh, the Queen here does get caught out of position. She's trying to run away from those Zealots, juking and jiving, and she might just survive, Robin.
Well, these Zealots are going to put themselves in a nice little wall here so they can deal with these Lings very effectively without giving them much surface area. And he's actually going to tag 1 Zealot on this Queen. He gets it. Dunked. And now the 5 Zealots going to go ahead and get these Zerglings. Now, will he retreat once again? No, he's actually going to chase him on to the ramp here. And there we go. Finally, a surround will be occurring. But man, a lot of Zerglings have been made on this day.
Yeah, in the end, that 100% ended up working for Optic Zero. He chrono boosted those extra zealots. Fire Zerg did not seem prepared for it, and now we see that things are pretty even. 32 drones to 35 probes, in fact. So we'll see what the follow-up is here for Optic Zero. He's got a Stargate on the way. It's the first Stargate we've seen, and since we've seen one of them, it only makes sense that we should see two.
Well, Zerglings sitting outside the natural. Ooh, look at this. Double Stargate on the way for Optic Zero. And he hides them in different locations as well. So if a Overlord does come in, and of course sees the one Stargate, potentially he won't know about the second one, which could throw him off, man. If it's Phoenix, potentially a lot of harassment can ensue. Of course, if it's Void Ray, suddenly you have a lot of firepower because you're having double the Void Rays than you were expecting. So a lot
yeah,
of
I think it's
here.
got to be Void Rays for Stargate play against a Zerg. Because if you commit to just Phoenixes off of double Stargates, you have a lot of Phoenixes, and you can really hurt your opponent, but sadly, you can't kill off hatcheries, you can only kill off some drones, and once the Spore Crawlers are up, there's not much you can do. So he's going to just rally these, as we see, right into the middle of his base, try to keep them hidden. In comes an Overseer, though, making a mad dash. He sees one of the Stargates, sees the Void Rays. He's going straight for that second Stargate. Will he see it, Robin? It's going to be close. He sees the Chronoboos. There it is. He sees the second Stargate. He knows there's Void Rays, and look at that, a Hydralisk Den already on the way, Robin.
Yeah, man. Immediately cues that up, and that's a great choice against Void Rays, of course. It takes a little bit of a while for them to power up. Having a little bit of lag, it looks like, in this game number 3. But of course, Hydra's a great choice against Void Rays, and of course, Gateway units. Of course, you're not going to have too much tech, such as Robotics Bay or anything off of 2 bases, because you simply can't afford 2 Stargates and, of course, Colossi. So having Hydras out, really, really great against 1 Gateway units. They just shred them to pieces, and 2, of course, dealing with Void Rays.
Yeah, pretty much, Robin. Couldn't have said it better myself. Optic Zero here in a lot of trouble, and he had his Stalker in position to try to block any kind of scouting from an Overlord, but it was a pretty quick lair coming from Fire Zerg to get that Overseer out. That means it was about a 7.5 minute lair, which is really quick for a 3-base play. And it just took Optic Zero by surprise. Instead of slow Overlords coming in, it was a fast Overseer. And man, knowledge is power, especially in StarCraft 2.
Well, we're just going to go ahead and wait for this to mellow out. And also, if you look in the bottom left corner, I believe there's 2 Zerglings, or actually 1 Zergling and an Overlord, looks like, by the blips.
Yeah.
At the 3rd. So,
Just
yeah, you're right,
blocking
man.
that.
This is just pure, like, 2-base. I don't know what Optic Zero is thinking, man, when it comes to his builds. I feel like
actually,
Ohana...
I'm fine with this build. This is it's an all-in build. It's a tricky build,
scouting.
but it's an efficient, solid build that can work. Whereas I feel like his +2 Colossus timing, like +2 means you have to get a Twilight Council, so that's a bunch of resources lost. The Colossus, of course, is tier 3, and it just ends up hitting way too late. It's just, that's not going to work against top tier Zergs. And the same thing with his Blink All-In, which had Templar Archives with it for an unexplained reason. And so those just make his attacks hit later. And you really want to streamline. You want it to be as efficient as possible. It's not like you can fall back and expand after you invest that much into Stalkers. Or at least you can't do it effectively. You have to have done damage. Looks like there's still quite a bit of lag there as it was unpaused for a quick second. But yeah, this is actually the build that I like the most that he's done so far, Robin. It's just unfortunately got scouted like immediately.
Well, Fire Zerg, when it was on pause, he immediately grabbed the Overseer, checked out the Stargate, and made sure whether or not it was a Void Ray or Phoenix. Saw a Void Ray being created, even saw one leaving the area as well. So, again, 3 Spore Crawlers looks bad to be finishing up, +1 attack for the Hydras have been queued up as well. He's also grabbing Roach Speed, so he can also follow up with a very strong ground army after he deals with the Void Rays. So, overall, like you mentioned, man, Fire Zerg is going to be pretty ready for this. We should check out his drone counts real quick. Where are they at?
Taking a look at the drone counts, we got 50 drones to 46 probes right now, but of course it is 3-base to 2-base, so we see a nice increase there in income for Fire Zerg. He is ahead of his opponent, and now taking the extra extractors as well. And gas is so important as you get towards that mid-late game stage, and we're really going to be able to see Fire Zerg here get tons of Hydras up. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Nidus Worm coming up as well to allow Fire Zerg to quickly counterattack after holding off this Void Ray threat.
Well, here we go. We're going to go ahead and wait for a little bit and see what Optic Zero wants to do from here. He's following up into a few more gateways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gateways, and now has been queued up. Oh, I'm sorry, that's just 4 gateways, and he's gotten the Twilight Council. Oh, no, that's a Robo. That's just 3 gateways. What?
Yep, he's
know,
only
man.
got those 3 gateways right now, but he's got 3 more at the main, rather at the natural, so he's got 6 gateways total, so this will be an interesting follow-up, to say the least, but he needs the robotics bay, and investing in the Twilight Council, that's not going to help him get a robotics bay up, because Hydralisks are going to be just fine against Immortals or Blink Stalkers or anything that his current tech structure will allow him to get.
Well, Phoenixes and Void Rays now heading straight to the main. There are Hydras already stationed there, as mentioned. We do have, of course, the Phoenix. The one took a lot of damages down into the red, regenerating those shields at the moment. And just the Hydras again, just constantly being popped out. They're going to go ahead and get in positions to defend the third, the main, and creep tumors. Again, they're very important whenever you are going for the Hydra route. I mean, they're important overall when you're playing Zerg, but if you're going Hydra, they're especially important just because they're so slow off creep. Fortunately, we're not in hardest form yet. Won't be having that speed advantage quite at the moment, but at this point, Optic Zero now finishing up those gateways. Will he start warping in units from here? He gets an observer out right away. It's going to help with them clearing out these creep tumors that push across the middle of the map, which might give him a chance to catch the Hydras out of position. But wait a minute, the Phoenixes get caught out of position there, and the Hydras take out 3 of them?
Yeah, well, it was actually a much closer trade than you'd expect. It was 3 Hydras for 3 Phoenixes. And as we see, Phoenixes cost 150 minerals and 100 gas. Hydra is 100 minerals, 50 gas. So definitely inefficient for the Phoenixes, but not that terrible, considering that they're just not going to be too effective. I mean, against Ling, Roach, Hydra, Phoenixes aren't going to be that useful. So losing them, you know, it's unfortunate, but to be expected. And really, all Optic Zero wants is time. He wants time to get those Colossus out so he can deal with this Hydralisk threat. And so losing, again, the Phoenixes, it's not efficient, like dollar per dollar. However, it's buying him that time he needs for the Colossus and is definitely a worthwhile investment. As we see, once again, the Phoenixes and Void Rays now pulling the army back towards the main, towards the natural.
Well, there we go. We're going to go ahead and have this cat and mouse game between our 2 players. Can Optic Zero keep up with it, man? Fire Zerg. A little sorry about the lag. I mean, unfortunately, it just happens. Credit to the players and, of course, the event for keeping on going, though, man. Really trying to make it work out for everybody.
And we just ask you guys to be as patient as we're trying to be here, because we want this game to be underway just as much as you do. But at the same time, like, you have to realize that it's important that these games are not laggy and that they just wait out the lag issues and then resume the game when they've quieted down. It's been a really, I guess, finicky internet connection here so far, and hopefully you understand and bear with us here.
Yeah, and then one person saying in the chat, get out the spectator, and that's actually for Optic Zero, Frankenstein. That's his account. So we don't have any extra spectators in here whatsoever, and the lag isn't caused from us, or we would leave, of course, and let it finish off and cast replays. But let's go ahead and wait it out.
Yeah, these players, of course, are in the middle of a mall right now, and as someone stated earlier, malls are not known for their internet connections. It does happen.
Yeah, man. But I mean, the cool place to throw lands. Last week,
I think so too. Like, I think it's a sick place to throw lands because
you get people walking by and they're like, "What are they doing over there?"
The event in Toronto was at the Eaton Center. The Eaton Center gets something like 100,000 visitors a day. Like, if you're talking about esports exposure, then WCG is probably doing more than any other organization out there right now just by having these events in malls. Now, the downside, of course, is that this is pretty painful with all the lag. Hopefully, it's not too bad once, like, the internet is working properly and they're not just always laggy and then pausing it when it's super laggy. But hold that thought, Robin, because we're going right back into game. And again, the Phoenixes and Void Rays will juke away, but the army has been pulled back to the main base, and that's giving time here for our Protoss player to get those Colossus and that Colossus range out.
Well, he's getting +2 out as well. It's a little over 70% complete. And middle of the map, it looks like the Hydra's getting a little bit of damage. On top of the Void Rays, they are retreating as fast as possible with the creep finally falling off for them. Unfortunately, the Hydras will not be able to pursue. And we're just waiting for that Colossi, man. Looks like he's using his Chrono Boost as much as possible to keep up with getting those other Colossi out. We have a second one on the way. And actually killing his gateway here. So he can break down into the bottom of his ramp, it looks like. But remember, a 4th base, I believe, is down in the right corner here. 4 Fire Zerg. He's getting a 7th and 8th gas started as well. Moving into Spire Attack, of course, he got Lair done. Can start moving into Hive pretty soon when he gets the Infestation Pit.
This is kind of scary, I've got to say, Robin.
There it is.
If Optic Zero decides to just push out across the map with 3 Colossus and he's using that Chrono Boost on the robotics facility, it's going to be before Corruptors can be out. And that's going to be a really scary timing for Optic Zero to hit. But it looks like he's actually going to go for a third base, so he's not going to hit that timing, and he's going to allow FireZerg the time he needs in turn to get the Corruptors out. And it's funny how that plays out here, because FireZerg gave enough time for Optic Zero to get Colossus out. Now Optic Zero giving time for FireZerg to get the Corruptors out. And he's got 8 Infestors on the way, doesn't have much gas, so I mean, he's not even going to be able to get that many Corruptors out at first. Right now, I'm concerned for FireZerg. He is not appropriately preparing for these Colossus.
These players are so generous, man, helping each other out. So nice, so nice.
It is. They're Canadian, you know?
Yeah,
They're Canadian,
nice
eh?
people. Thing is, though, FireZerg is at 200 supply right now. He has Infestors with an astronomical amount of energy. I mean, if you just look at it, you see mostly purple bars for them. And here we go, going to run into the middle of the map here. It's just Zealots, Sentries, a couple of Colossi, and they're kind of slammed to this choke point right here. And he's got a nice point here with his photon cannons as well, to where you can kind of force engagements to be really inefficient for Zerg player. And here we go, FireZerg's moving forward. Roach from the left side. He force fields on the right side here to prevent units from coming in. Now, if he can deal with the left side, nice. And then he can deal with the right side right away afterwards. The Infested Terrans get thrown down as well. Gonna really just wait out these force fields before he moves in once again. And it's actually breaking down this natural wall here, moving up. And this Forge actually has +3 on the way, and that actually might be canceled out.
It looks like it will be. The Forge there does go down. And we see, meanwhile, at the third base, he does hold strong. He actually held off all of those units. But again, the Roaches and Hydras pushing up into the natural. They took out the Forge, like you said. But so far, there hasn't been any other structural damage. Gateways haven't gone down. Only a couple of probes falling. And now the army of Optic Zero is cleaning everything out. And meanwhile, we see FireZerg. He's just rebuilding that same Roach Hydra army. No Colossus have died here for FireZerg. Meanwhile, we got Void Rays holding off the Roach aggression at the third base. So the Void Rays are still alive. The Colossus are still alive, and in fact even a couple of sentries still alive here for Optic Zero. He's kept those super important gas intensive units alive without losing any bases, and that means that this game is not over yet, Robin.
Man, it certainly isn't. He's not too far behind in probes, actually. I thought he would have done a lot more damage. 64 to 51. If you're ever going to split your army like that as a Zerg player, you need to either do some kind of damage. And, like, one of the things that you should be doing is taking 4 or 5 roaches, if you're splitting your army, and just moving them to the back of a mineral line and just putting them on hold position. And if your Protoss opponent doesn't pull back his probes, you're going to do a lot of freaking damage. But nonetheless, it looks like from here, Optic Zero is going to get double forces up, try to get some infrastructure around his third so he can defend it a little bit easier. But look at this, a lot of Roaches, a lot of Hydras outside of the natural trying to move their way up that ramp once again.
This is smart by FireZerg. He's trying to use just a few Roaches here to bait his opponent out into the open. And here he goes. Roaches and Hydras are charging in. Great fungal going down, hitting just about everything. The Colossus, though, they are still alive. The Void Rays, 3 of them are still alive. The Hydra's count is definitely going down quickly. One Colossus out of position there will fall as well. Will FireZerg push through? It looks like just barely. One Colossus there is holding, but it gets bungled. And GG from Optic Zero. FireZerg is going to win this tournament, Robin.
FireZerg is now going to China. Touchdown for him. Well done. Great series all weekend long, or I'm sorry, for all day today from him. Actually, we watched his ZBT, we watched his ZVP. Very, very strong player. Optic Zero, unfortunately, not going at the tech tree faster than he should.
He was too clumped up at the end there, and that meant that the fungals were just so good. They were doing damage to like every single one of Optic Zero's units got fungaled. That means he can't pull his Colossus back to make sure they're not getting hit. He can't pull his Voiders back to make sure they're not getting hit. Plus the actual DPS, 12 units taking 40 damage, because those are all armored units. That's what, 480 damage per fungal. That is just absolutely, that's just terrible. And Optic Zero obviously could not hold that kind of damage coming. So FireZerg, man, he takes it in a 3-0 fashion, makes it look easy.
Yeah, man. So, with that being done, guys, make sure, of course, to follow FireZerg on Twitter. I mean, he posted it. I actually forgot the actual link for it.
I think it's FireZerg SC2.
That's right, that's it. Good job, Katu. You and your memory, man. You've been playing them brain games online.
I have.
So, with that being said, guys, of course, thanks for coming out and watching. It's been fun. I believe there's some videos that Katu's going to be running at the end of the video, or at the end of the stream. But, again, if you enjoyed our casting, let us know on the Team Liquid feedback thread. And, of course, if you like us as well, you can follow us on our Twitters. So, that's it from me, man. I really enjoyed casting with you again, Katu. I don't know if you're going to have me next Sunday, but
I'm actually
certainly had
going
a
to
lot
be
of
in
fun.
Dallas next week for
Oh,
MLG, but
just
there
kidding.
is going to be the Montreal event happening to see who will be the final third representative coming from Canada to go and play in China in the WCG final. So definitely tune in. There will be some casting happening then. Sadly, I cannot be here. Maybe Robin, if you're interested, definitely. I'm sure they'd love to have you once again if the casters aren't finalized. But with that being said, guys, this has been the WCG Canada Western Final, sponsored by Samsung. It's been a blast. We see FireZerg here, gonna get to go to China, and man, that just like gets me excited right there. That we have companies sending people literally across the world to play for thousands and thousands of dollars. Every time that I just take a step back, think about it for a second, it's just so awesome. So
When I think about it for a second, that's halfway across the world, man.
I know.
And these guys are going for free. Like,
For frizzles,
if I was good at this game, dude, I would definitely try that. But man, again,
it's a tough game. That's
It is
why
a tough game.
That's why we appreciate these players and how good they are and how much time they put into this. So
that's very true.
yeah. So again, shout out to Samsung making this possible, as well as Twitch, G4 Box, ZX Games, and all of our other sponsors. It's been a blast, and what can I say? I hope that you guys tune in next weekend for the Montreal event, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
All right, you ready, Kevin? And flip.
Whoa! Did you get that?
Yep. Look at this. Takes like 20 pictures at a time. I never miss anything. Isn't that awesome?
Oh, that's really cool. You should upload these.
I know, right?
That is really amazing. Pictures are so clear.
Kevin's a handsome devil.
That phone does everything. Search dog tricks.
Okay, see if we can teach him something cool. Look at how lazy Kevin is.
Kevin, get it together, dude.
Come on, Kevin.
Take 20 pictures with Burst Shot on the Galaxy S3.
I am not just a television. I am a Samsung Smart TV. I am your window to the world. A portal, so no matter where you are, you're in the front row. I am a gateway, so you can access anything and watch everything. The only question is, where will your passions take us? Experience the future of Smart TV now.